Now, remember we were talking yesterday in the very first part of Exodus chapter 3 about this angel of the Lord. Now, this angel of the Lord, who is then referred to in verse 4 of this chapter, which we'll read in just a second, as God. The Hebrew translation there is Jehovah. So he is called Jehovah in verse 4. And this is an expressive attribute of God and the Godhead being applied to him. Yet he is also referred to in verse 2 as the angel of the Lord. An angel is the Hebrew word malak, which means a messenger. So the name angel and Lord are combined. And this is seen throughout the Old Testament as being one individual and one individual only. This is the second person of the Trinity. This is God the Son, Jesus Christ. So Christ, in a pre-incarnate form, is speaking to Moses from the burning bush. Now look at verse 4, and you'll see where he's called God here. It says, when the Lord saw Moses coming to take a closer look, God called to him from the middle of the bush, Moses, Moses. Here I am, Moses replied. Do not come any closer, the Lord warned. Take off your sandals, for you are standing on holy ground. I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. When Moses heard this, he covered his face because he was afraid to look at God. Okay, so he comes to take a closer look. And God didn't speak to Moses until he fully had Moses' attention. And when I look at this and think about it, I think sometimes we miss and don't hear from God and hear the Word of God and get what we should get from the Word of God because it simply doesn't have our attention. It's just surface level. Moses kind of being interested, looking over here, passing by. God waited till his attention was turned and then he spoke to him. We will get truth and guidance from his Word when our attention is on it. When our attention is not on it, I believe we only receive partial. We don't get everything we should get because our minds are all over the place. So Moses comes to this burning bush. He becomes focused on it. And then God calls to him from the middle of the bush. He didn't see anybody there, but verse 2 tells us very clearly that the angel of the Lord was there calling out to Moses from the midst of the bush. And as I said, this is Jesus Christ. And we know this because God the Father, it is said, no one has seen him at any time. They have only seen the begotten Son. And that's seen clearly in John chapter 1, talking about we have seen him. If any man has seen the Son, he has seen the Father. And 1 Timothy chapter 6 talks about this, and that no man has ever seen God in the person of the Father. So this is Christ. And he calls out to him, Moses, Moses. That's important. We don't pick up on this because it's just calling his name. But the first thing he does, he calls his name. Because this shows that even if Moses was this obscure guy out in the desert in the middle of nowhere, God still knew who he was. And God still had a plan for him right here in the middle of all of these things. And there's this double call. And you see this several times in the Old Testament, this double call, this double naming. Moses, Moses. Then in Genesis chapter 22, he calls it to Abraham, Abraham, Abraham. The call of Samuel in 1 Samuel chapter 3 calls him Samuel, Samuel. In Luke 22, in calling to Peter, Jesus says, Simon, Simon. He does the same thing with Martha in Luke chapter 10, Martha, Martha. And in the call of Saul, who would later become Paul, he is called in Acts chapter 9. He says, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? So this double use of name there is indicative of a very important calling or message. Something of great importance is being said. It's not done very many times in the Bible, and oftentimes when it is done, it's important moments. The call of Samuel, the restoration of Peter, a calling to Abraham, the call of Paul. It's important stuff. We'll finish some more of this section tomorrow. See you then.